We did schedule 45 minutes for the lecture, and you'll still have the 45 minutes. We are running a few minutes over time, and I'll give you a 5-minute warning. And then, colleagues, I want to encourage you to ask questions, so please note your questions. We have about 15 minutes of questions after each lecture. Thank you very much. A pointer, okay. Does somebody have a pointer to lend us? Okay, we going? There's a walking stick at hand. Okay, can you start? I see somebody's got one. Thank you very much.
Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics, the Director, Center for Postgraduate Studies, all Principal Officers here present, Head of Departments, and colleagues. Good morning to you all. I am Ayanda Olushola Sunday, and I'm here to present the topic, application of nano-oxides, fly ash, activated carbon, and compost for the removal of organic compounds from backyard wastewaters. My supervisors are Professor Fatoki, Dr. Kimba, and my external supervisor from Nigeria is Professor Adiko. And I'm going to be discussing, I'm going to introduce the topic, after which I'm going to discuss my experimental approach, the result and discussion, and from there I will draw out a conclusion. First and foremost, people will ask me what are organotin compounds. I will say organotin compounds are chemical compounds based on genes with hydrocarbon substitute. Examples of organotin compounds are tritricotine chloride, triphenylene chloride, tetrabutene, and there are a lot of these compounds. But the ones I'm going to be considering, I actually research on are the tributyl compound and triphenylene compounds. These are the structure of these compounds, and both of them are very, very toxic. But bear in mind that TBT, also known as tributyl compound, is more toxic than TPT. These two compounds are actually used in wood treatment. It is used as textile preservation and water paints, and also they also use it as pesticides and fungicides in agriculture, and as well as antiviral paints. Then I will go on to say that antiviral paints are actually paints that are used to prevent viral organisms that is growing on marine and marine structures and vessels. For example, this diagram shows that, just as an example of how fouling organisms, they grow on propellers and the structures of ships, thereby preventing the mobility of these ships at the ocean. And if these ships are not moving very fast, definitely the fuel consumption will be very, very high. And as a result, it increased fuel cost of the marine industry. And because this fouling organism also grows on this structure, it can also lead to corrosion and wearing out of the marine structure. And you can see this diagram is showing us how the antiviral paint is being applied on ships. So I will now say that these antiviral paints, the active component of these paints are actually the tributylene and triphenylene compounds. They are highly effective and they prevent the growth of these materials on those structures. Now, these materials are very, very highly toxic, and they have led to significant concentration. There have been significant concentration of these compounds in the marine environment. And they usually bring about growth abnormalities in aquatic animals. They bring about deformities in aquatic animals, and I would say a concentration of TBT and TPT in the marine environment at nanogram level will actually result to mortality of any aquatic animals that are present at that point. It also leads to imposex. If you ask me what are imposex, it means that if we have a female oysters in a marine habitat in which we have these compounds, you discover that after some time, the female will start to have male genital organ, just like a female now growing, just growing, all of a sudden growing male genital organs, and that is actually a deformity. Which simply means that these compounds are endocrine disrupting chemicals. And I know a lot of people, they like to eat seafoods. By eating seafoods, we can actually inject these compounds, and it's like a poison. So it's not, and that is why let me just continue, please. Now, what I now want to say now is that based on the toxicity and the effect of these compounds, the use of organotin compounds as active paints has actually been banned. But the problem still is that the usage still continues. Actually, it was not banned on all ships. It was stated that any ship that is not, that the length is not more than 25 meters, organotin compounds should not be applied on it. But larger ships should still use organotin compounds. But third world countries are still using it on either the smaller or the bigger vessels. And there's been a lot of research to find other means, other antifouling agents that will not bring about the actual effect of organotin compound, but still yet all other ones being found are not as effective and as the TBT and TPT, and hence they are still using it. So, and as a result, these compounds have been found in almost all marine environments. For example, this compound has been found at Cape Town Harbour here in South Africa, also in Durban and Richard Bay. Organotin compounds have been found there, and so on. So because now there have been efforts in order to now reduce the concentration of organotin compounds to greater than 99% reduction before being discharged into the environment. The way it works is that because these paints are actually contaminate the environment during the painting of the ships and during the repair and painting of ships. Therefore, what happens after the painting, there will be paint particles that will fall down to the floor. So the rain can actually swept the paint into the ocean. Or after painting, the ocean will be open, in which the ocean will be allowed to wash away this organotin compound into the sea. If the processed water are treated before being allowed to be discharged into the environment, then the concentration of organotin compounds in the marine environment will be minimized. Now, what are now the objectives of my study? The main aim is actually to prepare absorbent and absorbent composite material that will enhance the absorption removal of this compound from wastewater. Now, what we did was to prepare composite material using fly ash, which is a waste artificial carbon, nanometal oxide as precursors. We also characterize all our materials by using modern analytical techniques, and we establish the process of interaction between organotin compound and the absorbent. Another thing is for us to study the absorption capacity, or I would say the removal efficiency of all these composites. Of course, we have to quantify our data by using kinetics and isotherm models. Now, under experimenters, Under experimentals, these are the absorbents that we use. Fly ash was obtained from Matla Power Station in Pumalanga. Also, fly ash is a waste from coal combustion. And the activated carbon, nano iron oxide, nano silica oxide, and the nano zinc oxide are actually purchased from Sigma Addition. Now, these are the composites that are prepared in the ratio 1:1 or 2 components composite, and ratio 1:1 for 3 component composites. And after preparation of all these absorbents, we actually determine the pH and point of zero charge. This is very, very useful because these materials are not just aimed on organotin, they are also aimed at other pollutants. And as a result, we need to determine the properties of all this material for application on other pollutants. So this part of temperature and pH, though very easy as you will say, but it will enable us to know whether this compound will actually attract cations or anions in the wastewater. We also determine the ash content, and most importantly, these are the equipment or the instruments we use. Actually, this SEM and TEM was carried out at University of Cape Town, at UCT, their microscopic unit. This will enable us to see the morphology of our materials before and after application, to see how it is, to see whether they are porous or not, or just to see the surface as well. This FTR also in our department here in the chemistry department is used to actually determine whether there is a bond formation during the preparation of our composite material. This elemental analyzer was carried out, analysis, Euro EA elemental analysis was carried out at Stellenbosch University to determine the carbon, nitrogen, and hydrogen component of our materials. The XRD, that is X-ray diffractometer, was used to study the phase of our absorbents, and this was carried out also at UCT. This 3000 analyzer was used to determine the surface area of our absorbents, because in the absence of other chemical reactions, the absorption capacity of the material usually depends on the surface area. Therefore, we need to know the surface area of our material before application. The ICP-AES and ICP-MS, also at Chemical Engineering at Stellenbosch University, was used to examine the elemental composition of our fly ash before application, such that when we are using fly ash, we are not still introducing another pollutant into the environment. Now, what we did next was to simulate what actually happened at the sea. Just like simulating the seawater itself in the laboratory. And after that, we prepare what is known as artificial organotin compound contaminated water by spiking different concentrations of the organotin compounds in the artificial seawater. After that, we now conducted our absorption experiment. But before I continue, I want us to know that activated carbon and its composites in this study were actually used for the remediation of TBT, which is tributyltin compound, while fly ash and its components were used for the remediation of TPT, because we have so many absorbents being prepared, so we don't want to focus on one, so therefore we try to separate them. And then, during the absorption experiment, what we did was to optimize all our working parameters, like the absorbent amount, the contact time, the pH, the sparing speed, the temperature, and the initial organotin compounds concentration. Optimization is just like finding at what is the amount of absorbent that is going to give us maximum absorption capacity. At what time are we going to have maximum or optimum absorption capacity, and so on. So after each experiment, we actually separate the absorbents from the absorption from the filtrate by using filtration, and after which we derivatized our solution. Before we also extracted in hexane. Without this derivatization, this equipment, which is GC-FPD in our department here at Belleville campus, will not be able to determine OTC except except we actually derivatize it. So it's very, very tedious because this has to be optimized. Then, because this is a GC-FPD, it's a gas chromatography, you can't just inject like water in it. Therefore, we have to extract the organotin compounds that has been derivatized into hexane before we inject it onto the machine in order to determine our material. So, the next step says the equivalent concentration of organotin compounds were determined by GC-FPD, of course, as I've said. So, and the absorption capacity was actually obtained by mass balance equation. If you have 100 ppm and if you are after absorption we are able to analyze and we see 2 ppm, definitely we know that 98% has been removed. So that is what a mass balance equation actually does. Now, after obtaining our results, we have to model this result by the use of kinetics, the kinetic models and isotherm model. These kinetic models are based on the result obtained on the effect of contact time. Why this is based on the result obtained when conducting the effect of initial organotin compounds concentration. The way it works is that we have to determine which of these models best describe the absorption data for applications in the field, because all these constants will actually tell an engineer to know how to design an absorber that will be used for the remediation of these contacts. So we plotted against it. So if you can see the equation very well, this is the slope. From this slope, we can calculate our K1. And of course, from the intercept, we can calculate our QE. And the same goes for the other ones. The equation, this will be plotted against this. From the slope, we got our QE, and from the intercept, we get our K2, and so on. Now, on the isotherms, we use, equation 1 is the pseudo-first order equation. The second one is the pseudo-second order. The third equation is based on the Elovich rate equation. The fourth one is the fractional power, and the last equation, that is equation 5, is based on intraparticle diffusivity, diffusivity kinetic rate equation. For the isotherms, equation 1 is the Langmuir equation. This is Freundlich, Temkin, and the Dihar model. Just like in the case of kinetics, but bear in mind that this has to do with the effect of initial concentration. So this will also be plotted against this, in which from the slope we can actually calculate our A mass, and from the intercept we can calculate our KL, and the same thing goes for all other ones. In fact, this is actually the work, because this is also actually going to tell us how it will work practically in the field. Now we also determine the thermodynamic parameters of absorption. We determine the thermodynamic equilibrium constant using this equation, and we also determine the standard Gibbs free energy by the use of this equation. R is the gas constant, T is the absolute temperature, and also our Kc is from here. Also, we determine the standard entropy change, in which we plot our log of Kc against 1 over the absolute temperature. From the slope, we can calculate our delta H, and from the intercept, we can calculate our delta S. After getting all these results, then we have to apply optimum conditions to the absorption of organotin compounds from real matrix. Initially, I said in the laboratory, we actually simulate what happened in the sea. Therefore, after getting optimum absorbent amount, optimum time, optimum pH, optimum stirring speed, then we now apply all those parameters on real sample collected at Cape Town Harbor. Because of my time and because we have so many absorbents, I will only discuss one of my papers accepted in Springer, that is water, soil and air pollution. That's I will just like explain it so that we have a knowledge of what we are actually doing. Based on characterization, and the topic is actually remediation of TBT, contaminated seawater, by absorption onto nano ion, activated carbon, this activated carbon and the nano ion activated carbon composite material. Now, let's examine the physicochemical properties of these materials. This tells us about the pH, the point of zero charge. And if the point of zero charge is higher than the pH, definitely we know, of course, it's going to attract negative ions in solution. And that is why we discovered now it's like you are using nano ion oxide to absorb or to remove positive metals. Definitely the ion itself is positive, it's telling us it's positive. Therefore, there won't be a high percentage of pollutant will not be able to be removed in that case. So this one tells us about the application of this material, either whether maybe you are focusing on negative or a positive pollutants. Now the surface area, as can be seen, I said is very, very vital. You discover that activated carbon in itself has a very high surface area, followed by our composite material, and then we have our nano ion oxide. Also, we also did that, and you can also see the micropore of all our materials. It also shows that the activated carbon still have a higher micropore area. This is a sample of SEM. This is the SEM of nano ion, the SEM of activated carbon, and the SEM of our composite material. Now on absorption study. This graph is telling us that as the mass of the absorbent increases, the amount of TBT absorbed also increases. This is assumed, this is actually as a result of the active site, more active site that will be made more available as the mass of the absorbent increases. And you discover that when it reaches this certain point, the equilibrium has actually been attained. It simply means that, here at 0.5 gram, if you are using 0.5 gram and you are using 1 gram, it's like you are still removing the same amount. Therefore, because of cost, I will go for 0.5 because 0.5 seems to be better, because there is no changes, no much difference between this and this. So, and that is actually the essence of conducting this experiment. And from our result, we are able to discover that 77.2% of TBT was removed by nano ion oxide. 99.7 was removed by OTC was removed by the activated carbon, while the composite material only removed 94.3. You can see that this activated carbon, because of its high surface area, it removes more than this. So it's now left for us to now think of a condition that will make this to be more, to be the best, or maybe absorbent of all. So because we have to value all these conditions and see that we also actually obtain the, and you should also bear in mind that we are looking at a condition that is going to remove about, greater than 99% of these pollutants from wastewater. On effect of contact time, you also discover that equilibration was actually attained within 60 minutes within 60 minutes. It simply means that, by at 60 minutes, almost all that the absorbent can absorb are actually being attained. So if you are just increasing the time, it's like you are just wasting time. And this graph also shows that the activated carbon absorbs more than the composite material, while the composite material also absorbs more than the nano ion oxide. Therefore, the result on the effect of contact time was now modeled using this first order, second order, Elovich, fractional power, and particle diffusivity. Now the actual value from here, you can see for the first order is not as high as that of the second order. If you look at the second order R-square value, you discover that all these ones are 0.99, 994, 9999, and then 9999. So when you compare the R-square value with all other R-square values, you discover that that of the second order is the best. So that is the best fit. So therefore, this actually, pseudo-second order, this pseudo-second order equation is now chosen as the best kinetic model that describes the absorption data. Now also, because we don't have the R-square, our data here, I will also say that the QE value experimental and that of the theoretical they are also very similar, which also support the fact that our absorption data can be described by the pseudo second order kinetics. This H0 is telling us the rate at which this, the organotin compound is being absorbed by the adsorbent. And from here, you can see that of the H0 of the artificial carbon, H0 of the artificial carbon is actually higher than both of them. It means that this artificial carbon also absorbs more faster than the other ones. And on effect of pH, we are also able to ascertain that equilibrium was achieved within pH of 8, which is actually the pH of normal marine water. From our result, we are able to know that 96.9% was actually removed by artificial carbon, 77.3% by the nanomaterials, and 94.5% by the composite material. Now we went further to also examine the effect of stirring speed. On the effect of stirring speed, artificial carbon removed 99.3% of triphenylating TBT, 81.9% TBT was removed by the nanomaterials, while 99.9% was removed by the composite materials. Now, and the order of decreasing absorption capacity is that this nano ion artificial carbon is more efficient than the artificial carbon and the nano ion, based on two reasons which I'm going to say. Number one, artificial carbon seems to be initially to be the best, because at that time the stirring speed is not as high. So as the stirring speed increases, all available pores will be exposed. All available, it's like the ion is like blocking the pores on the artificial carbon, and that's why it seems it's not absorbing as that of the artificial carbon. But at high speed, all the pores will be exposed. And also, because we are combining nano ion and oxide, which is also a catalyst, with artificial carbon, which has to do with something, its absorption is usually dependent on the pores. It's like you are combining two processes. The ion is possible with, first of all, break down the organotin compound. It will catalyze it, after which the artificial carbon will now absorb it. So this can be the reason why the composite is preferred than the precursors. The artificial carbon and the nano ion. We also model the isotope from the the same way we treat. I discussed that of the kinetics is the same way we also treat that of the Freundlich, the isotope. But from most of our results, we discovered that, except for few cases, almost all our data fits the Freundlich isotope. And you permit me to please go back here. I think I forgot something. This pseudo first second order is assuming something. It is saying that the rate of absorption is dependent on the number of absorbent sites. That is to say, the absorption increases. The absorption of organotin compound increases as the number of the active site, the pores of their material, increases. But this Freundlich is actually telling us that the absorption may be due to the heterogeneous nature of the surface site involved in the process of absorption. As I said, we also examine the effect of temperature. On the effect of temperature, I will just say that TBT, we are able to ascertain that TBT absorption onto this absorbent followed an endothermic reaction. That is to say, the absorption capacity increases with increase in the solution temperature. and that can be represented by this graph. You see that as the temperature is increasing, the percentage of TBT being absorbed also increases until we now have an equilibration after 60 minutes. So therefore, after 60 degrees Celsius, I mean. So it simply means that the best temperature, the optimal temperature in which we can actually choose it is actually 60 degrees Celsius. And these are the thermodynamic parameters. The negative delta G naught is telling us that it's actually ascertaining the fact that the absorption process is actually endothermic. Also, this is telling us the degree of the suddenness, that is the entropy change, while delta H is the heat change, entropy change. And these cases are actually listed in these parameters, that is the equilibrium constant. Now, the application of this, now, after we have ascertained the optimum absorbent amount, the optimum pH, optimum contact time, optimum temperature, and so all these ones were now applied on real wastewater systems. And these are the physical-chemical properties of the seawater obtained from Cape Town Harbor that was obtained. And our experimental work showed that 99.9% TBT was removed by the composite material, 99.7% removed by activated carbon, and 80.1% removed by the fly ash. I will now I will just quickly say something about just conclude, but it will be broader. It will not be just based on TBT. So this is a graph showing the percentage removal of TBT by these absorbents from TBT contaminated seawater. We can see from here that almost all the TBT has been removed by this composite material as compared to this nano material, except activated carbon and the silica. Also in here, the TBT was also, high percentage of TBT were actually removed by these absorbents. And compared to this nano material and fly ash, except activated carbon, because that of activated carbon is even itself very, very, the surface area is very, very high before, except that, and although it doesn't give us 99.9% removal, this composite material in many cases does give us 99.9% removal. So we are also able to conclude that the absorption of organotin compounds on these absorbents is found to depend on all the working parameters we investigate, that we actually investigated. And we also said that the pseudo second order reaction actually explain the kinetic data. The Freundlich isotherm explain better also explain the organotin compounds absorption, and the thermodynamic analysis showed that the absorption of the TBT is endothermic, while that of TPT is exothermic. Exothermic means that the concentration, the amount of organotin TPT being removed decreases as the temperature increases. Now, from this research, we are able to have, presently we have 12 publications in international peer-reviewed journals, and I think 3 conference proceedings. So I think the time will permit me to explain what we actually discuss in all these publications about. That is publication 1 to 5, 6 to 10, and 11 to 12, and then we have our conference proceeding. And 5 other manuscripts are also under review. And the Marcus Who Is Who in the World in his 31st edition also listed me as one of the leading scientific achievers around the world. We thank God Almighty for his support, love, and care. I wish to thank Cape Peninsula University of Technology for the award of 2011, 2012, and 2013 bursary is completed. Also the ComCom Award, I was given a ComCom Award to travel out to present my work, and the 2012 University Research Fund thanks to my hardworking supervisors, both here and in Nigeria. I also wish to thank the Department of Chemistry for supporting me financially in terms of a lecturing appointment at the department. I also thank the laboratories used at UCT and Stellenbosch University and the Department of Chemistry staffs. They are also wonderful. I thank my colleagues here in CPUT and also thank my church, that is Redeemed Christian Church of God, Little Spirit. I also thank my beautiful wife, and my beautiful baby as well, for their sacrifice of time. They are there in Nigeria. Thank you.
So, Dr. Randus Ayanda, thank you very much. I'm glad that some of my high school chemistry actually comes back to me and I was able to recognize some of your compound names. But yes, thank you very much. Colleagues, that was the presentation. Just two thoughts have occurred to me. I would like to encourage, I must just compliment you, and if every doctoral student can achieve that number of publications, I think he deserves a round of applause. That is very extraordinary, and I think it's an achievement far, far beyond the average in terms of turning out that number of publications, really. And it's an example to behold, and for others, it's a requirement that you should publish before you graduate, but as you're seeing here, there's room for far more. So you've certainly set a benchmark. Well done. Two other thoughts that just occurred to me while you made your presentation. I did see somebody from MCD here, and I want to encourage all four of the presenters today to write a popular piece for the media. And we'll work with MCD to ensure that this work gets out into the media in terms of its application and what it's worth. A non-scientific piece as such, but showcasing research. So I want to encourage everybody to think about that. Also, when I was looking at the pictures of the various equipment and going to UCT and Stellenbosch, just to remind academics in the room and supervisors, there's a call right now, the NRF Regional Expensive Equipment Program, where you're able to put in submissions for equipment that we need, high-end equipment. And Dr. Nhlapo, typically in the 3 million plus, in the 3 million plus type of budget. So I want to encourage people, especially dealing with in the laboratories, etc. Please take advantage of that. CPUT, Dr. Nhlapo is chairing that program on behalf of the region for this year, and we want the CPUT to put in some good proposals.